You are precious, and your value will never change. Well, it was the day of the annual parent-teacher conference at Laurie Sullivan's elementary school. Laurie's teacher, Mrs. Lake, reminded the class that both parents and students would sit in to hear their progress reports. But that didn't matter much to Laurie. You see, she knew that her parents wouldn't be coming. Laurie's father was an alcoholic, and that year his drinking had escalated. Often Laurie would fall asleep to hear her father's loud voice and her mother's sobs. Well, Laurie watched all day as parents would greet their kids with proud smiles and hugs. She couldn't help hearing the voices in the hallway as parents asked questions, as children giggled, and as Mrs. Lake spoke. Finally, when all the names had been called, Mrs. Lake opened the door and motioned for Laurie. Embarrassed that her parents hadn't come, Laurie quietly walked into the hallway, sat down on a chair, and looked down at her folded hands. For a few moments, Mrs. Lake thumbed through papers on her desk. And then, moving her chair next to the little girl, she lifted Laurie's chin so she could make eye contact. First of all, the teacher said with a smile, "I want you to know how much I love you." Laurie lifted her eyes. In Mrs. Lake's face, she saw things she'd rarely seen: compassion, empathy, tenderness. Second, the teacher continued, you need to know it's not your fault that your parents are not here today. Again, Laurie looked into Mrs. Lake's face. No one had ever talked to her like this. Third, she went on, you deserve a conference whether or not your parents are here. You deserve to hear how well you're doing and how wonderful I think you are. Laurie didn't know exactly when, but at some point in that conference, she heard the voice of hope in her heart. She realized for the first time in her life that she was lovable. Now, friend, it's the same with you and God. When you focus on how much God loves you and the price He paid to redeem you, you'll come to see yourself as God sees you. And that should tell you just how valuable you really are. Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for good and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope.
Thank you for listening to Encouragement. If you've been refreshed, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share a little encouragement with someone you love. Encouragement is a podcast from Family Radio. These stories are just a taste of the stories you can hear every day. Listen at familyradio.org or find more encouragement on the Family Radio app.